Everyone, and welcome to tonight's remote transition class, all about remote careers. My name is Alex Barker. I'm the founder of the Happy PharmD, and with me tonight, I have my very good friend, Chris Bakley, who is a semi-remote pharmacist working in specialty, and he's also one of our Happy PharmD career coaches. And with us tonight is Kelsa Benzing. I think I've actually communicated back and forth with Kelsa. I feel like it's been a while. I feel maybe like 2 years or something like that.
About a year, I think.
Okay, about a year. Okay. I think COVID added a year in my timeline, so that's why. So tonight what we wanted to do was talk about remote career, talk about making a decision going that route, and then talk about Kelsa's journey going from where she was in pharmacy to where she is now, what it's like, what some of the challenges are, but also what some of those pros and cons are as well. I'm going to hand the hosting job over to Chris, and at the very end, I'll hop back on and we'll talk about some ways that you can get started in your remote, ideally remote career path. So Chris, who's also named John, it's Chris. Just think of John as his proper name.
Exactly. I'm quick side note, even if you said John, I'll know you're talking about me, but I won't even flinch, which is funny. So, because I've never been called it. But anyways, so we'll jump right in. Again, we mentioned this in the beginning, but for anyone who just logged in, so please throw out any questions into the chat. Alex will also be checking those quick, and I will as well. So if anything pops up, any questions about what we're talking about, or we missed something and you wanted to go a little deeper into the conversation of what we were mentioning, please chime right in. You don't have to wait till the end. And also we will have time at the end for questions as well once we wrap up. But welcome so much, Kelsa. Thank you. I really appreciate you joining us today.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I guess we'll jump right in. If you could just give a brief overview about yourself, where you're from. Tell us a little about where you were before you were in your remote position.
Sure. So my name's Kelsa Benzing. I graduated from Butler Pharmacy School in 2018. I started practicing retail out of school. I had worked as an intern pretty much all through pharmacy school in retail as well. So I had applied for a residency position at the end of the school period, but had not gotten one, unfortunately. And, like a lot of people who were in the same boat, I kind of felt like it was the end of the world. Like I had no options left and kind of felt very defeated. So that leads us into, me working with the Happy PharmD a little bit later down the line. But yeah, so I felt like retail and hospital was really my only option. So I was in retail for a few years. After working retail for a little bit, I pretty quickly realized that I did not like that environment. So Chris was actually my coach for Happy PharmD, and we kind of talked about, if retail was an ideal environment, I actually would have very much enjoyed it. But with the stressors and issues that there are, as I'm sure a lot of you know, it just wasn't for me. I was having a lot of anxiety and mental health issues, physical health issues. So I knew I had to do something else. Didn't really know what. So that's kind of what the Happy PharmD helped me figure out, which I'm sure we'll potentially talk about in a little bit. So now I'm at a specialty pharmacy in oncology, which is cool. I never thought that I would be in a position like that. And actually, our whole team currently is working at home because of COVID, but whenever anybody goes back, I will actually stay home and be remote permanently, because that's like the position that I chose. So it's pretty cool. I never expected to see myself in a position like that. So.
Very cool. Very cool. And I guess we'll go back to like your mindset, when you were in retail, right? So prior or before, COVID, and before making a transition to remote. So what was going on in your headspace, and just what was going on internally that drove you to, ultimately, I think coaching would be a good choice for me. Like, I think I need to do something else.
Yeah. So like I touched on a little bit, I was having a lot of anxiety, and pharmacy is stressful. Even now I have stressful days, but it was just like a whole nother level where I would, even on my days off, I would come home and just be like a zombie. If somebody asked me what my hobbies were, I didn't know what to tell you. Like, I didn't have any. I literally worked, and when I was home, I, maybe cleaned up a little bit around the house and then just like laid on the couch all day. Like, I had no interest in doing really much of anything, just because work took so much out of me. And I felt like it was starting to affect my relationships, and, my husband was noticing, and I didn't want to, I don't have any kids, but my animals are my kids. I didn't want to spend time with my animals. So like, I really started to kind of take a step back and realize how much it was affecting me outside of work itself. And so that's really when I knew I had to do something about it. And I got to the point where I was just looking for jobs just to get a new job, even if it wasn't something I was really interested in or explicitly wanted to do. I was like, I just gotta get out, which is not a great mentality to have. So that's where the coaching program definitely helped to pinpoint what I was looking for and help me find exactly something that fit. And I think we did a very good job, because I very much enjoy my new position. So.
No, and that makes me so happy to hear that. And I honestly, just with you speaking, and I'm sure, everyone can chime in as well. I'm sure a lot of people listening have been in that boat, or maybe currently in that boat that you were just describing, right? And I was in that boat when I was in retail, doing the 24-hour deal, right out of graduation for a few years, and managing as well. And it was, pretty much constantly thinking about work, or overly stressed by it, or working crazy hours, and that work, kind of losing that work and home balance. It was that work-life balance just didn't really exist, right? And you also kind of brought it home with you, right? Which was something I knew I didn't want to do for a long time, which was actually a reason why I went to the Happy PharmD too. So can 100% relate to where you were as well. And I know I want to dive really deep into the process and how we got there, but also just to kind of show, compare the two quickly. Currently now, like, I would like to compare your work-life balance prior and then after. So I would love to hear the differences and similarities, but I'm assuming there's pretty big contrasts from what you had before to what you have now. And I would love to hear that a little bit more about that.
Definitely. So I don't want to say it didn't exist at all before, but I mean, pretty close. We would, I worked at least every other weekend. So when I had the weekend off, we might have gone out to dinner, like my husband and I. I watched TV. Remember the first time we talked that you asked me what some of my hobbies were, and I legit didn't know how to answer your question. I was like, I don't know. I don't do anything fun. And like I said, it was starting to affect my relationships. Like, I didn't want to hang out with friends or talk to anybody. And, even at home with my husband, we just like sat on the couch and watched TV, and I went to bed, and, I was just like tired all the time and stressed, and it was awful. So now it's definitely much better. I was not working crazy hours at retail. Luckily, it still was, not a great fit for me. But so I actually work more now than I did before, but it feels like so much less. Like I work 8:30 to 5, and at 5 I turn it off, and I'm done, and I'm just me, and I'm not thinking about work. We go on lots of walks and hikes with the dogs, and I was gonna start taking a cooking class, but that got paused because of COVID. But still looking into that and gonna start doing that soon. Definitely hang out with friends more. I'm trying to think of other new specific things we've done, but I mean, we went on a couple little trips once COVID wasn't so crazy. I just feel happier and healthier than before. So.
And it sounds like you have a lot more energy, right? You're not as
Yes.
tired when you said you clock out at 5 or maybe a little after, depending on the day, right? But usually it's not like you're staying for hours, right? Compared to retail potentially.
Right.
But you actually have the energy to do more after work or before work or what have you. Is that about right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and I was volunteering at our local Humane Society animal shelter previously, maybe 4 hours a month at the most. Now I'm going like 10 to 12 hours a month.
Wow. Okay.
So that's been a lot of fun, walking dogs and petting the cats and helping them clean and stuff like that. yeah, I was like, I know I'm missing something big. So yeah, I've been able to spend a lot more time there and doing things like that too.
And I'm curious too, just from like an outside perspective, it sounds like you really noticed like a huge difference, but has your
Mhm.
husband or friends, and family, have they noticed like a new you because of this, that you've, with this work-life balance that you've been able to achieve and new role
Mhm.
that you got into?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't talked about it explicitly with like friends or other family, but my husband and I definitely have had a few chats about it, and he's like, yeah, it's so night and day. So he's very appreciative as well.
No, that's awesome. And I guess so. Everyone, let's go. We'll go in reverse here. So back to where you were in retail and you decided, okay, I need to go to coaching. And I'm sure a lot of people may be in this boat as well, but maybe didn't know much about what coaching was. And we may have asked you as well, how did you find out about us, or why did you decide to do it?
Mhm.
But I know, like, we heard some of your reasons in terms of what was going on at work and what you wanted to, you're almost willing to, and I feel like many people say this, take whatever's available just to like get
I
out,
was, yeah.
just to get out, right? And that's, not what we want to do, right? We want to find
Mhm.
something that will fit you well and make you happy and meet all those needs and wants that you desire, and meet all your goals for the future, right? But it's so easy to just want to jump ship if you're in a
Mhm.
toxic environment, or just a bad role that's just getting to you. But I would love to hear more about, how you found coaching. Was there anything holding you back? Like, oh, maybe like it isn't for me, or were you like 100% ready to do it?
So I found Happy PharmD kind of sort of by accident. I want to call it fate though. It's just on LinkedIn, because I was spending hours looking for jobs and, trying to do some networking without really knowing how. And I don't even remember what our like mutual connection was or how I saw it, but I just happened upon it one day and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because any other, similar programs that I had seen, which I say similar, they're not very similar, but any other coaching programs, it's not pharmacist specific. Like all of the coaches weren't pharmacists, and I just did a lot of digging and research into Happy PharmD, and I was like, I'll just talk to Alex, and then he pretty much convinced me that it was going to be the right thing for me, because my husband and I were discussing it, and it's basically, we thought of it as an investment in myself. Even if I didn't get a new position within that like 3 months or so that I was doing coaching, it's still, that's invaluable information that I learned and skills that I learned during that time. So definitely was an investment in myself, which was part of, me trying to better my like mental health and, prioritize myself. So that's kind of how I decided to go ahead and do it. Yeah, and definitely have been very grateful. And then I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Oh, no, I think it was more, were there any things that were holding you back? Because it sounds like that was pretty much all positive, right? Was there anything holding you back from wanting to do it? But you kind of answered it as well, saying it
Not
was looking
really.
at,
After I, did all of that digging into I looked a lot at the website and talked to Alex, and I was like, I got to do something, because, again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do other than quit my job. So, I needed some kind of direction. I really felt like that was going to help me, because it was an outside perspective. My husband and my family and friends are great to talk to, but they're not pharmacists. A couple of them are, but most of them are not. And so, the program is designed to help people like me that were struggling in the way that I was. So, I felt like it was really, felt like the right choice and a good investment in myself. So.
Awesome. No, and I love, that's a great way to look at it, right? Is you're, investing in yourself to grow and to get into a new role that you will truly enjoy, right? Outside of where you are. And a lot of times we're never taught to do that, right? We're not really thinking about ourselves and what do we actually want, right? But that kind of leads me in, you led me right into my next question. So I'd love to hear more about like what we did together at the program, but like internally that helped you the most in terms of figuring out what you wanted to do. So obviously it's a lot of, for those of you listening, it's a lot of, self-reflection, a lot of figuring out, what do I want to do? What will actually make me happy? But also what are my goals, right? Personally and for family and everything. But what was it that helped you the most in that process and when you reflect on it?
Yeah, so I definitely think um, the hard skills, so like interviewing skills or resume. I mean, the resume did help a lot. I feel like, I had all these things, but didn't have them on there or didn't know how to put them on properly to make it stand out, that type of thing. That was all definitely very helpful. But to me, I feel like, that initial pinpointing down what my goals were, like you were just saying, and what I wanted to do was the most helpful part. Like I don't know if you want me to talk about the specific exercises, but I know a few of them, like the 5-year plan, basically. You would ask me to, sit down and write down and tell you what I wanted my life to look like in 5 years, not just my career, but everything. So I literally broke it down like by every category that I could think of and was like, okay, if I could, pick anything or do anything or have anything, whatever, like what would that look like? And I had never really done that before, like at any point in my life. So that was very like deep self-reflection for me that I had not done. And it was very helpful and eye-opening. And then there were lots of like modules and things that helped discuss, different career paths, like broadly, and then a little bit more specifically, kind of get you exposure to what's out there. That was helpful as well. But really, I think like that 5-year plan, self-reflection, the Ikigai thing was cool too. I don't know if you want me to talk more specifically about that or not.
No, yeah. So like that one, for anyone who hasn't heard that term before, it means a reason for being. So it kind of interconnects with the 5-year vision, but it's also trying to find things that fit you, right? I want to say cooking was on your list as well. I remember at least in your 5-year vision, which I'm glad you're that's still on the list, right? And it's kind of nice to go back to that and like make sure you're sticking to.
I just made a new recipe last night.
There you go. That's funny story. Like I'm also like, I don't know, I think it's COVID obviously, but because of that, I've become like the chef in the house and I truly love it. So it's, I feel like you find new hobbies out, especially when you're stuck at home. And I know things are opening up now, but it's funny when you start finding new things to do and new hobbies that are totally unrelated to pharmacy, right? But it's also very nice to be able to have the time to do that kind of stuff.
I've made so much fresh pasta.
Yes. So for anyone out there, I'm not sure. I mean, of course you can still eat out, but maybe have a lot more time to cook, or maybe cooking isn't your thing at all. And that doesn't sound fun, but have more time to do other things. Right. Which is a huge difference. But yeah, you go on. Sorry, I cut you off there. What other parts were very helpful for you?
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah, again, like I said, the other skills were definitely useful, and again, a resource that I'm going to have forever. But really that like self-reflection in the beginning that we did to kind of open up my eyes to what there was and what I really wanted to do other than just get out of retail was probably the most helpful. And I kind of, after just chatting with Alex, but after starting that, since those were the first few exercises we did, I really felt very hopeful, which helped me not feel so terrible at work, because I was like, oh, maybe, I won't have to be here much longer. I'll actually get to do something I want. I was just definitely much more hopeful about the whole situation. So.
Gotcha. And while while you're trying to figure out what you wanted to transition into and just kind of lay out the plan and stick to it, and kind of obviously do things differently than you were prior, right? Instead of just, applying online and I'm sure everyone can relate just to trying to apply to jobs online and not getting much, much feedback or results from that. But, in terms of having a coach along your side, how did that help you kind of stick to your, figure out your plan and stick to it? What was the biggest like benefit you had from like having a coach, with you for that process and even after as well? But
yeah. I mean, he's being modest, but Chris is awesome. So, we met, honestly, was it weekly, every other week, whenever, I don't remember exactly the time frame, but we would have like Zoom calls. And, at the end of each one, we would set, this is what I'm going to do by, next week or by the time we meet again. And that way I would be held accountable to come back and give you whatever, like reflection, or, if it was a networking exercise or what have you. So, I feel like anytime previously that I ever tried to do anything beneficial like that for myself, I'd set out with good intentions, but then not really hold myself to it because I didn't have anybody to hold me accountable. So that was a big piece, just the accountability. And then having someone to guide me through all of that as well, so I didn't feel so lost, was a big piece as well. And then, I mean, even still today, if I want to give you an update or like have a question, just shoot you a text and you answer, very quickly. So it's nice to just have somebody that's, again, knows what you went through or are going through and can help out when needed.
Absolutely. And I guess, switching gears a little bit. So I'd love to know, I know you kind of mentioned, the self-reflection and things we did. So, obviously specialty probably wasn't on your list, or maybe you were even aware of it, while you were in school, or while you were in retail, right? I think you were saying in the beginning, you were more focused on, I was in the same boat too. Pretty much everyone either talked about residency, fellowship, hospital, or retail, basically.
Those were the only 4 options, it felt like. Yeah.
Okay. So, I'd love to hear more about, how you discovered, how we discovered specialty, but also why you like it so much.
So I feel like it was kind of a mix of things on how I discovered it. So the retail company that I worked for did have a specialty, like branch. I had never really considered it from that point. But it was just, I knew it was there, like I knew what they were doing. So kind of in the back of my mind, I guess, but nothing I ever really considered. And then, just going through all those like reflections and modules that laid out the different career paths, kind of did, I don't want to say a personality assessment. I don't remember what it was, which one it specifically was, but kind of like a career assessment / personality assessment that was like listed in one of them. And then, I kind of realized I wanted it to be more clinical, but still have patient interaction, and just finding what fit in there. And then one of my close friends that is also a pharmacist works for the company I actually work for now, and had said all good things about it. And I was like, well, maybe, I'll look into it. So it was kind of a mix of all those things. But yes, I definitely love it now. Where I am, there's a lot more room for like growth and career opportunities. And I get to talk to patients, but not all of the time. So it's like a nice mix, of general like front end processing, which is still very clinical, especially with oncology. And, everything was just new to me when I started, because I hadn't touched anything in oncology since school. And I think we spent like 2 weeks on it, maybe in therapeutics, like not very long. So it's just, and it's also very quickly changing all the time, which a lot of specialty is, a lot of, medicine in general can, but oncology, there's like a new drug every week. So that, new like education and learning piece I really enjoyed as well. We have the opportunity to help precept students where I'm at. So that's an awesome opportunity as well. I'm trying to think of what else.
But I was going to pause you right there really quick. So actually Brittany posted a question. So we'll kind of like back up just a little bit before describing like what you do, like what your day looks like. But I want to, so Brittany mentioned how did the Happy PharmD help you find specific opportunities and connect with people from those companies? So beyond self-development. Yep, Alex, I got it. So I get like, I think a big thing for you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like, and most people can probably relate to this, is, especially in pharmacy school, there wasn't a ton of preparation, I guess, depending on where you went and, what programs you were involved in, but, or extracurricular activities, but there wasn't much prep for networking, right? Or wasn't much like, where do I even look, right? Or who do I reach out? How do I reach out, right? So can you talk a little bit about that, and like how you learned to, you know, who to look out for, or how to reach out to people and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. So kind of from a few different angles, I learned how to, if I needed to, just like look random people up on LinkedIn and like cold message them, and how to do that as effective as possible. Probably what worked better was I made, do we call it the Rockstar 20 list, I believe, where, I kind of just sat down and thought about any pharmacist, or really any person that I have had any kind of significant contact with in the past, that could potentially, help me find a job, or connect me with somebody who could, or, really just even, I guess a big part of figuring out what I wanted to do as well was talking to people who were doing those things, which was also, networking in itself. So, I talked to people that I have never even met in person. I talked to some of my previous professors from school, just like quick chats on the phone. We called them like coffee meetups, but COVID friendly. So, we got some, I think I was like really nervous about doing that at first, especially for somebody I've not met in person or don't have a specific personal or professional relationship with. So, we did like a little practice with that, got some like templates sort of to base, messages off of and things like that. So that was definitely very helpful as well. Sorry, I kind of, it's been a year. I forgot a little bit about some of the pieces.
No,
of it,
and no, that's fine. And I think it's just helpful because I think a lot of people just, it's, whether it's working on your LinkedIn page and kind of updating it as well. And like you said, or like your resume and things like that, but also networking is huge, right? And especially during COVID, a lot of people had more time to talk, right? So I like the virtual coffee date kind of thing, or coffee talks. But it's true though, either most people maybe had that time, that spare time that they wouldn't normally have, or they'd have to get ready for work, have the extra time in the morning, or less commute time because their commute's a little shorter. Maybe they're staying home and just walking upstairs or whatever. But most people had a little more time maybe to talk, and people still, and I think it's also reassuring to find how much people are willing to give you their time and actually.
Yeah, I was actually just about to say that, because I think that was a big piece of my hesitation, was I was anxious that I was going to be bothering them, which, I may have bothered someone, but they just don't answer. That's fine. But most people are very willing to help. Like a lot of people, understand, even if they haven't been in the exact same boat, they understand your situation. Or, I feel like most pharmacists want to help people, like in general. So everybody, for the most part, was very, very helpful, even if it was just like a quick message back if I had some specific questions, or able to talk to them, for 15, 30 minutes on the phone. So.
Awesome. And so I kind of want to quickly transfer back over to just in terms of, so with the coaching, what was the biggest thing that helped you figure out, what, I want to go for this? Like what helped you decide on where you are today, right? Your career path, transition from retail to remote clinical / specialty work. But something, obviously it wasn't just jumping ship and picking something that was available, right? You came to a conclusion and you're like, what, I think this fits me really well. And we'll see how it goes. It's something new, right? You didn't know much about it. Like you said, having to learn a lot, right? It is like a crash course in learning a bunch of stuff that we haven't probably seen since school, especially if you're in retail, or maybe hospital, you might not see it either, depending on what you're doing. But what was the biggest thing, or a couple things that you recall? I know it's been a little while, but what would have been the biggest things that you recall, going through the process of, figuring out how to decide on what your career path was ultimately that you wanted to go to?
So I had a short list, like 3 or 4, general areas that we were looking at that I thought would be really good fits. And, I still have those like tucked away if in the future I decide I want to go a different direction. Like I was looking at more academic roles and things like that as well. So, who knows what'll happen in 10, 15, 20 years, but, kind of figuring out, I think, which career path fit more of the things that I felt were strengths or things that I was interested in. And then, again, where I could see myself in 5-10 years, talking to a lot of people that are in that career path, and in this instance, specifically at the company that I'm at, was very helpful. It definitely was. I mean, I tend to be a creature of habit, which I'm trying to break a little bit in certain aspects of life. But, I definitely was ready to get out of retail, but I was a little nervous. So, but I think the excitement of getting to learn something new and all the new like clinical aspects, and, it just felt right after everything that we had reflected on and all the work that we did. And when I got that call that I got the position offer, like, I was just so ecstatic. I was like, this isn't real life. Like, so, and no job is ever perfect or without challenges, but, again, I felt like it had to be better than where I was, but it also felt right as far as what I wanted to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I know even when you didn't know 100% if it was going to be, oh, actually, hold on. We have a question here. Okay. So Daniel, yep. So we may have to get back to that one, but how do you find a job if you're living overseas? It seems like no one is willing to hire once you leave U.S. soil. I'm a U.S. citizen born in Poughkeepsie. Have tried many things in Saudi ideas, have hospital and home infusion experience. Okay, we'll get back to that one towards the end, Daniel. So definitely we'll go back to that. So, but I did want to ask, so, when you did make that transition, right, you got into that clinical position. I don't think originally you knew it was going to be remote, or at least you didn't know 100%, right? But that was also new times, right, with COVID. But I would love to hear more about, compared to working in a retail setting or in person, seeing patients in person. Because I think that's a big thing that I always bring up to people as well is, how would it be for you to not see people, right? To not see patients, to not, physically, possibly if you're working from home or, more of a closed kind of position, but how would it feel for you to not actually have that interaction, whether it's with other pharmacists or health professionals in person or patients, right? So was that hard for you? How do you like that compared to retail or community-based pharmacy where you actually, see your patients face to face?
Yeah, it's definitely different. So even if in this particular position, even if we went back to the pharmacy, it's just an office space. So it's all going to be, remote as far as not actually seeing patients or anybody in person. Obviously, we would get to be with other coworkers, which it's definitely interesting for me and the other people that started around the time that I did, because for me specifically anyway, and anybody else that ends up staying home permanently, we're never going to actually meet them in person in the office. So, it is very different, but I feel like, we have like an inner office, like messenger, and I talk to people like all day long, whether it's asking them questions, because everybody's super helpful with, if I have a question about like our systems or what have you, at work, and they assign all of the new hires specific mentors so that you don't feel so alone as far as that is concerned as well. But I feel like I've been able to make pretty good connections with my coworkers, given the circumstances. My husband and I went to one of my coworkers' houses to have lunch and play games last weekend. So, and we had never met in person. So that was the first time. So, I mean, still making friends. As far as patients and like physicians and things like that, I do miss a little bit the interaction with patients in like a retail setting for certain patients, I should say. So, you always have like your favorite patients that you are happy to see, and they're happy to see you. And then, you have other people who get very angry at you, and it's nice to have the phone between you sometimes. So, it's a mix of, pros and cons. I think mostly it's good, though. You just have to work a little bit harder sometimes on the phone to, make sure the patient feels like they're understood and heard. But, I love talking to patients, and that's one of the things that I get to do. And, they don't care, how long your phone call takes, as long as, you're not just talking about their grandkids or something all day long, but, which a lot of people like to do. So, I feel like it's definitely different, but it's been good. And I still have been able to make those connections. So.
No, I couldn't agree more. It is nice. Like, I feel like I agree. I'm in the same boat. I do like just still being able to have contact with patients, even though it's over the phone. I feel like it's still, you can still get that really genuine conversation and really still feel like you're, making a big difference without actually seeing someone in person, which is very cool. But I always like to ask that to people, just because, sometimes it's hard for people to imagine not seeing people or not seeing patients, right? And I think it's also a little bit of a little bit to kind of get used to, right, or acclimated to it in the beginning. But I think after a while you kind of realize it is kind of nice, right? But another part, I guess, is how do you like working from home in general? Like, is it hard for you to separate work from home in a different way? I know how we talked about kind of bringing work home when you were in retail, or just kind of being stressed from it or things like that. But in this case, is it hard for you to like be working at home, right? To be in the same, you leave work and then, but you're still home, right? How is that for you working remotely?
Yeah, it's been good. So I'm very much a homebody, so I don't really mind at all. Again, like the social interaction piece would be the only thing I really miss. My commute is 10 steps, so it's it's very nice. And I have, like I've made a dedicated space that's as free from distractions as possible. So, I try to kind of keep that distinct separation between work and home, because you don't want to bring work home, but you shouldn't always either take home to work, I would say. So we had it's technically a guest room that my office is, and we had a TV in there and had to take it out, and just no distractions. But it's been good.
Gotcha. Is it easier for you to focus, would you say, or how is it compared to
I think
other
so.
situations in pharmacy?
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I've never been in our office, but I can imagine that it sounds a little bit like a call center at some points. So I definitely feel like I focus better here, because, if I want soft music in the background, if I'm not currently on calls, I can do that, and that helps me focus. Or if I need it to be completely silent, I can do that as well, which would not be an option, in the office. So that's nice.
Yeah. And you kind of touched on it a little bit, and I know you had to do some studying and learn the materials and kind of almost like going back to school for a little while, right?
Yeah.
To learn all this info and be specialized in oncology. But how is the clinical part, in terms of from retail? How does that feel for you now to kind of have that extra challenge and also being able to learn stuff, having new stuff just come up every day, right? New drugs come out all the time. But I feel like a lot of times in the world of specialty and more clinical roles, you learn something new every day. Do you feel like that, or completely different feel from like retail?
Yeah, definitely. It's very encouraging and invigorating for me, because I like learning new things. So especially I honestly loved our 8 weeks of training, because half of that or so was clinical. They didn't expect us to memorize everything and take a big test like in school or something, but it was just kind of a basic background. And it was nice that they did that, since we were not used to those medications at all. So that was nice. And it's fun for me to learn about new things. I know some people, after school, they're like, oh, I'm done.
No, I 100% can relate to that. I remember being so excited to learn new stuff, especially from the monotony of retail, right? Just kind of seeing the same stuff all the time. It was a nice breath of fresh air. But so I do want to bring up some of these questions, and you don't have to answer specifically with this one, but Steve did ask how pay compared to what it was in retail. And of course it's different, right? But also I think a big part of, and I'll let you answer too, but I think a big part of that is also, the difference of, having a set schedule and, possibly, holidays off and things like that. It's hard to compare in that way, but I'll let you, put a little input on that too, if you'd like, but you don't have to say specific numbers or anything like that.
Yeah. So what you said about, set schedule and holidays off and things like that is definitely a big plus. I noticed in, the past couple of years in retail, at least for the company I was working for, that starting salaries for pharmacists were plummeting. So what I started at with specialty was not much below what I was already at in retail. So it's very competitive.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yep.
But yeah, I think the overall, honestly, like all the other stuff mattered more anyway. I didn't even honestly care too much about that. It was kind of like a nice added plus that I wasn't like losing much as far as an hourly rate. To have, like 18 days off a year or something like that. And, holidays paid and things like that. So
just that work-life balance, right? It's priceless. I can't even put a number on it, right?
Yes.
Or like or being, remote all the time, right? That's, especially, with you really wanting that, right? It's not only are you saving on commute time or gas, but how, you can't even put a price on time, right? Like the hour, whatever you would spend round tripping. Every day, right? That saves you right there, right? More time to invest with your family and hobbies or what have you, right? Or just be able to relax. So
I get to, if I want to start a load of laundry on my break or take the dog on a quick walk, like I can do that. And it's been awesome.
No, absolutely. And I guess, so I know we didn't really talk about this too much, and we can definitely kind of give a brief summary on it. So Pamela was asking, so what does your typical workday like kind of look like? And then, okay, yep. So we'll kind of go there first. So what does this typical day look like for you? And I know, it can vary depending on the type of remote role, clinical role you have. But for you, for example, what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, so they try to kind of split our days in half, usually with the functions that we're in, which I'm sure again is very different at different places. But I do get to do, a mix of consultation and like not really data entry, but verification. And we have some like project teams that I'm a part of for like brand to generic changes and random things like that. So it's a good mix. I feel like if it was purely consultation, I might get a little burnout. If it was purely like offline work, like data entry or verification, I would miss the patient interaction. So it's nice that it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I feel like that's the difference, right? In terms of not just doing the same thing all day, right? It's definitely having a variety is so nice, right?
Yes.
And I guess she also, okay, so, and we'll also go back to this, Pamela, too, but how do you find this kind of remote home job? So I think it's becoming more and more common, and I'm sure you could agree more, but I think especially with COVID, I think a lot of places may realize it's, a lot more people, I think it's becoming more and more desired to want to work remotely. But also it kind of proves that you can get the same amount of work done or more, be just as effective and productive, and still get it done from home. So, but yeah, so I am, I know we have about, just under 10 minutes left, but would love to, anything else that you would like to bring up about your role that we didn't cover yet, or anything for people out there who are just kind of like, where do I even start, right? So how would you even recommend someone kind of wanting to make this transition, but not really sure where to start, and maybe if it would even be good for them?
I mean, well, I'm going to recommend Happy PharmD because definitely helped me a lot. But, even if you just tried to, I guess, do a little bit of that self-reflecting on your own, or, networking is a big piece like we talked about. So just trying to see like what specifically is out there and, connecting with people that you have like previous connections with, or anybody. You can even like cold message someone that's interested or that's working in something you're interested in and be like, hey, this is cool what you are doing. Like, would you mind talking to me about it for a few minutes or answering some specific questions? So that was definitely helpful. I mean, honestly, like I said before, I would not have had much direction without the coaching program or known really what to do. So that is definitely very helpful.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. And I guess, as we wrap up here, with remote work, and could you see yourself doing it, for forever and never really not minding, not being in person anymore? Like, do you, compared to how you were in person, right? And brick and mortar pharmacy, how much as like your, what would you rate like your work-life balance before and now, and also like your satisfaction with your job, then and now, as it being remote, especially?
Yeah. Unless something major changes in the future, which, who knows, I feel like I could do this indefinitely. Because again, I've still made connections with coworkers and still, go hang out with them, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, I mean, work-life balance was like a 1 out of 10. Now I'd give it like a 9. And, job satisfaction, probably 3 or 4 out of 10 at the most in retail, and probably now 9 out of 10 as well. Just leave a little room for improvement for both, but
Fair enough.
Yeah, definitely much happier overall. So
Awesome. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like we said before, my friends and family and husband would agree. So
no, I greatly appreciate it. And I'll as we wrap up here, I'll let Alex jump into. I know we have some questions coming on too. I know we'll go back to those as well. Alex, did you want to bring up anything quick before we go over these questions as well? I know we had a few more just pop in.
Yeah. So
I think you're reading them too.
I am. I see them popping up. Kelsa, thanks for sharing your journey and how you discovered, specialty. I appreciate it. Do want to make a couple of quick notes. One is remote work it's not like it's a career path. It's not like you can just be like, I want to be a remote pharmacist. There are tons of different fields that you can get into with remote. You can be a remote community pharmacist. You can be a remote hospital pharmacist. You can be a remote, practically the other 50 different career paths that we've identified. So realize that remote typically is something that they know they're looking for when jobs are being posted, but it can be something that is negotiated as well. I did a count before this webinar, and 8 out of 10 of our pharmacists that work with us at the Happy PharmD that are pharmacists full-time, have full-time jobs, and are coaches have either they're fully remote or they have some job that allows them to be partially remote or mostly remote, which I thought was interesting. I find it very interesting. So know that it doesn't have to be specialty. It's not like it's the thing. It is just Kelsa's journey that she went on. So if all of this is something that you'd be interested in, and if you're like, I really want to get into remote work, but I'm not sure which job, maybe it's specialty, maybe it's something else, we'd absolutely love to talk to you about that. We'd love to help you either navigate a career path or figure out how to make yourself indispensable in the job market. And really the best way to start is to just answer a few questions that we do for everyone. It's our career survey where we ask you a few questions about where you're at in your journey. And then one of our team members, Eric Wilson, gives you a call. He's our growth advisor. And we pretty much try to figure out, okay, where are you at in your career and where should you go next? And kind of like we talked about tonight, our coach program is all about identifying what makes you great. How do you basically, I don't like using this word, but sell yourself? How do you make yourself indispensable to that company that you want to work for? And identifying those companies that treat you right, that give you respect, that pay you well, that make you feel like a valued team member. We didn't really talk about that as a part of tonight, but obviously way too much to talk about. There's a few questions here that are very specific. So Daniel, Mizzy, I want to answer your question after the recording because it's like so specific. I don't know if anyone else would really relate to being international, which, by the way, congrats for going international. I wanted to know this actually. Steve asked, before you accepted the job, was there any negotiation that you did, Kelsa, for your job?
Not specifically. We did talk about it though, in coaching, but I was happy with what they offered essentially. And some stuff has changed since I was actually hired. So I guess you could say a little bit after the fact, like, again, the remote position being more permanent than anyone else's and things like that. So
good job. Way to go. Yeah, we've got a really in-depth guide about how to negotiate, and a lot of people use it after the fact because it's much easier to do that kind of negotiation too after your probation period is ended, right? Pamela asked, does your license limit you only to do the remote jobs in the state that you are currently licensed? The answer to that, Pamela, is depends. Sometimes it does, sometimes not. It really just depends on the state. And if you're in the United States, there's 50 different states. Let's not go into the specifics, but basically what you'd want to do is know which states are off limits, which states are. But the other part about that too is the only time that this really matters, there are a few states that just straight out prohibit it, but very, rarely will a company be like, you have to have this license right now. As we all know, companies love to move at a snail's pace, and they don't seem to prioritize hiring as much as we think it's important. And so realize that you can always get a license to work remotely. Okay, and so one final question, and then Daniel, I'll try to answer your question after I hit the stop recording button. Clay, what advice would you give to pharmacists who are interested in transitioning to jobs that are remote within the healthcare industry, but not pharmacist specific? Data analytics, informatics, medical writing, business, and project management. Clay, great question. So my first bit of advice, it would be to get your hands dirty now. Data analytics, informatics, medical writing, business management, those are 3 or 4 completely different career fields. And so if you're trying to do all of those at once, it's probably not going to work out well for you. It's like shooting a shotgun at a target a mile away. You really need a sniper rifle approach. So my first advice would be choose one. Don't choose all of these, because it'll be much harder for you to make progress on all of them versus just one thing. My second bit of advice, or I guess I gave 2 pieces of advice in that answer. The first one is getting your hands dirty now. So I don't know what you're doing now. And Clay, I think you're the same Clay that broke your leg you mentioned earlier. So if that is true, I would recommend spending this time now trying to figure out what is something that you can do to either utilize those skills, show value, and or create value for someone else. So informatics, medical writing, and business management, those are all things that we've helped people transition into. And the best thing by far that's helped those pharmacists transition is having experience, whether that's volunteer, paid through consulting, or on the job work. So at the very least, if you're like, I just don't know where to start or what to get into, feel free to message me. I'll put my email in the chat. I know of a few places that are always looking for people either to volunteer or get paid to do those things. Happy to give you those resources as well. And with that, I think we are going to end tonight's call. Kelsa, again, thanks for hanging out with us and sharing your story. Chris, thanks for hosting.
Absolutely.
Anyone who's ready to get started into a new career, we'd be happy to have you and talk with you to see if we would be a good fit to serve you as your career coach, helping you navigate the job market, and of course, choosing a career path that makes sense. Everyone, have a good night.